Hello， 大家好，我是 Veronica。之前我在网络上有收集大家问我有关腰痛的问题，那我今天针对这些问题来跟美国脊椎外科医师 Dr. Osler 来做线上的讨论。Dr. Osler 呢，他在脊椎手术方面的经验呢，有超过30年的经验，看过的病人无数。那我觉得他对于医疗又非常的有热情，是一位很令人敬重的医师。那我们今天虽然只针对脊椎滑脱做讨论，可是其实涵盖的范围跟所有的腰椎疾病都是有相关的，所以有这些问题的人一定要把整支影片看完哦。好，那我们就开始吧。Hello， 我是 Veronica。真的很开心能够在线上跟医生有这样的讨论。那一开始呢，我想先请医生来个简单自我介绍一下。
你好，我是 Osler 医师。I'm an emeritus professor here at the University of Vermont, where I was on staff as a surgeon for 30 years. I now do primarily research, and one of my big interests is back pain. I'm so interested in back pain that I'm looking for not just what causes it, but possible solutions. I formed a small company called Red Rock, which has a branch in Taiwan, which is how I happen to be talking to people in Taiwan tonight. And I'm excited to have a Taiwanese audience.
那在一开始呢，我想先请医生分享一下，就在你看过这么多脊椎滑脱的个案啊，你认为什么是造成脊椎滑脱的真正原因呢？
Spondylolisthesis is an extremely interesting thing. As you know, the slipping of one vertebra anteriorly on the vertebra below it. Typically, the L5 vertebra, the lowest spine vertebra on the pelvis, so it slips just a little bit forward. It's actually quite common in the population. We see it in 6% of people in the United States in epidemiologic studies. So it's so common that it's hard to call it an abnormality, actually. I mean, red hair would be less common than spondylolisthesis. The reason spondylolisthesis has gotten so much interest is so many people have back pain. And at least in the United States, 80% of Americans have back pain at some point in their lives. And so there's this question open, well, what is causing all this back pain? And when you see something that's abnormal on a spine film, spondylolisthesis, the question naturally arises, is spondylolisthesis the cause of the back pain? But to your question, what causes spondylolisthesis? Broadly, we don't know.
在台湾，很多人都是因为先有疼痛，然后才去看医生，然后去照了 X 光才发现说，哦，我有脊椎滑脱，所以很常会把脊椎滑脱跟疼痛把它变成一个很相关性的问题。这其实是两件事，你的疼痛未必来自你的脊椎滑脱，那你有脊椎滑脱也未必代表你一定会有疼痛。在医生看来呢，脊椎滑脱有什么样的症状呢？那它跟椎间盘突出又有什么样的差别？
The difference in symptoms between spondylolisthesis and disc herniation can be quite stark because disc herniation, a disc protrudes and pushes on nerve roots specifically. So disc herniation more typically will present as radicular pain, pain radiating down one leg or the other, possibly both, depending on where the disc herniation is. If the disc herniation is anterior, away from the spinal cord, it can present just as vague pain. Again, this is the sort of thing that MRI can see quite clearly. And again, shockingly, even when you see disc herniation, it's not necessarily what's causing the pain. In fact, often people have disc herniation and back pain, and they're unrelated because both are really pretty common. And so again, establishing the link is not so easy.
我想先解释一下，刚刚医生有说一个 radicular pain， 当我们神经已经受到压迫了，在英文上面就会讲 radicular pain， 就是所谓的坐骨神经痛，在我们的大腿后侧跟腿后侧还有小腿这些地方会有酸痛麻的情况。那像我自己知道的是啊，脊椎滑脱它会依照它的滑脱的程度去做分级嘛。那如果说我们的脊椎滑脱已经非常严重了，甚至到第4、第5级的话，会不会就造成半身不遂，然后就不能走路呢？
Severe spondylolisthesis might produce enough pain to make walking difficult, but it won't make walking impossible. As long as your spine is mechanically stable, it's possible to walk. Interestingly, if there is nothing wrong with the bony architecture of your spine, if you just have common variety unexplained low back spasm, it can hurt enough that you can't walk. I know this. I once developed back spasm when I was on an airplane, and I had to crawl off of the airplane. And it alarms security guards when you start acting that way, let me tell you. Interestingly, pain that's produced with no anatomic correlate on CT or MRI or anything can be as or more intense than something that involves spondylolisthesis.
是啊，这在台湾很常有这个现象，就是大家看到一个核磁共振的影像学或是 X 光的影像学，就很容易把它跟疼痛连接在一起。好，那如果说我们的脊椎滑脱很严重，它压迫到神经，可能让我们的脚就会有酸痛麻的情况嘛，晚上也会很难入睡啊，甚至会影响到我们的正常生活。那在什么样的情况下，我们才需要考虑开刀呢？
It's almost always a good idea to wait until you've tried other things before you try surgery. Once you get involved in surgery, there's no turning back. You can't undo an operation, especially a spine operation. So in general, the recommendation here in the United States, and I think mostly worldwide, is you have to try for at least 6 weeks with non-invasive methods to come to a resolution. And this can be physical therapy, or it can be pain medicine to kind of take the edge off, or it can be acupuncture, or it can be chiropractic, or it can be, I mean, there are many, many therapies that have been explored for back pain. To me, it's very interesting that Western medicine has done such a terrible job with back pain. I've puzzled about that because it's a very common problem. $100 billion a year is spent on back pain in the United States. That's right out there with cancer and heart disease. It's an immense economic burden on the healthcare system. And yet, Western medicine doesn't even know what hurts. It's really shocking. And I think it's been because nobody dies of back pain. If, you know, heart disease, people die. Cancer, people die. Everybody gets all excited about dead people because nobody wants to die. But something that just hurts is down several levels for attracting funding and research. It's shocking that we've done such a terrible job figuring out back pain, but it's a hard problem. That may account for some of it. Yeah. And that accounts for, I think, why so many other specialties and alternate therapies have tried to rise to the challenge. So, you know, that's why there are chiropractors and naturopaths and massage therapists, because, you know, standard medical practice has left a huge gaping hole because we haven't done a good job with that.
其实我还蛮同意这个说法的，因为很多人的腰痛都跟脊椎滑脱没有任何关系。那要找到腰痛的问题其实很困难，而且通常腰痛的问题会来自超过2个原因，所以大家一定要搞清楚自己腰痛的原因，不然一旦真的去做了像这样子的脊椎融合手术，可能就回不去原本的样子了。好，那如果说开完刀之后，我们什么时候可以下床走路，还有恢复我们的正常生活呢？
It's always essential to follow the instructions of your surgeon, because only your surgeon knows what repair was done and how solid the repair was done. Typically, you're able to get up, and we want patients to get up and start walking the next day. It's essential that people get up and start moving, because after surgery, your blood becomes more likely to clot. Under terrible circumstances, kill you. So we want people up and walking right away. It's good for their strength, it's good for their morale, and it keeps away pulmonary emboli and other complications that can occur post-operatively. But it kind of depends on the kind of surgery and how solid the repair is, so be sure to follow your doctor's advice, but expect to be up walking the next day.
那我想问说，像一些简单的动作，像是身体侧弯啊，或是旋转，或者说一些像大腿后侧的拉筋或屁股的拉筋，也是可以在6周以内就开始做的吗？
Generally, the first week you go easy on these exercises, but after the first week you can progressively go harder and harder on it. Nothing should hurt. You should just stretch to mild discomfort. And the sooner one begins moving, the more rapidly function will return.
那刚刚有提到说一些比较稳定性的运动，我们可以做一些像桥式 或是一些像收小腹、像这样子一些简单的运动吗？
You know, sitting on an exercise ball for core stabilization, it really takes every joint through at least some of its range of motion in your entire spine. So I really like that kind of exercise. The business of hard stretching should be put off for a few weeks at least. But the business of balance stretching, I think, can be quite helpful immediately because it really involves every joint of the body, you know, and it can be, you know, something like an exercise ball or you know, a chair that moves. Any of these things that keep people moving will help their core recover and not lose ground, which is what's crucial.
所以说，不管是不是有接受手术的人，那我们真的要把疼痛降低，最主要的其实还是要去改变你使用脊椎的方式。如果说你手术完之后，你还是有不好的姿势，你还是驼背，你还是用很糟糕的方式去对待你的脊椎的话，那这样子你同时还要去解决手术过后造成的伤痛，还有你原本造成腰痛的问题。
Absolutely. You know, most common variety low back pain that's not cancer or a fracture or some unusual cause, and that's almost all back pain, is, I think, at the end of the day, going to be caused by bad movement habits. And it is very difficult to find a new way to move. And people get stuck in some, you know, bad way to move that makes them very uncomfortable, and they cannot find their way out without help.
那所以不管是有没有要接受手术的人啊，我们要降低疼痛的话呢，就应该去改变你使用腰椎或使用脊椎的生活习惯。因为如果说你手术完之后，你还是没有改变你的驼背问题，你是怎么样对待你的脊椎的，你还是随便乱弯腰，你的坐姿还是歪七扭八的话，那当然你的疼痛就一定不会消失。你可能还要同时就是拥有手术过后伤痛造成的疼痛，跟你原本生活中带来的疼痛，就同时拥有两个问题要去处理。那今天真的很谢谢医生来回答大家这些问题。那很多观念我觉得都是大家非常缺乏的，因为台湾的医疗环境就是讲求要很快很快。那很多时候我们未必会有这么多时间去解释给病人听说这些实际的状况，甚至呢，常常很多人都没有搞清楚，就莫名其妙的去决定说要不要去开刀，也没有搞清楚开刀前后该做什么样的保养。那希望这支影片呢，可以改变一些对于脊椎手术的一些小观念。那如果还有其他的问题的话呢，欢迎在下方留言让我知道。那也谢谢very thank you for this short talk with Dr. Osler.
Thank you so much. It's been fun. 再见. Bye bye.